Welcome back to Monitors Unboxed. It's time to update our picks for the best 4K gaming monitors you can currently buy. The last 4K buying guide we ran was back in April, so we're certainly due for an update after testing more 4K OLED and LCD options. The good news for 4K buyers is that this category is cheaper than ever. A couple of years ago, $400 to $500 US would have gotten you a mid to high-end 1440p gaming monitor, but today you are getting a 4K display at the same price. With the increasing adoption of upscaling in games making 4K gaming more viable, in addition to the phasing out of 4K 60Hz gaming monitors, there is no better time to jump into the 4K ecosystem. As with our previous best of videos, we tend to talk about and recommend monitors we've personally tested and know to be good, or monitors that are very similar to products we have tested. It's always worth going back and checking out the dedicated monitor reviews we produce for more in-depth thoughts on each product, but just so you know, these recommendations are not sponsored in any way by any company, they're based on our testing and reviews. Any pricing that we talk about was correct at the time of filming, but of course you should check in your region given the focus here is on monitors in US dollars. We have links in the description below to check current pricing if you happen to see this video weeks or months after it went live. When choosing a 4K HDR gaming monitor or just a high-end 4K monitor in general, you can't go wrong with one of the OLED options that have hit the market throughout 2024. In previous buying guides, I've tried to pick an outright favorite in this category, but the reality is that it's hard to separate all the different models. Pretty much everything I've tested has delivered impressive performance across all key areas, with differences ultimately coming down to edge, features, and price. There's plenty of great options, but nothing that stands well clear of the rest. The reason why we are recommending a 4K OLED as the best right now is due to two main qualities to OLED panels that significantly enhance the gaming experience. One is their lightning fast transition times, leading to elite motion clarity that exceeds an LCD operating at the same refresh rate. And the other is their individual pixel control, which allows pixels to fully switch off to display deep, rich, zero-level blacks. And it means there's per pixel local dimming for brilliant HDR control at the pixel level. No backlight zones to worry about. There are two main 4K OLED panel types on the market right now. There's a 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD-OLED panel and a 32-inch 4K 240Hz WOLED panel. Both offer the aforementioned fast response times and per pixel control, the cornerstone of OLED, but there are a range of differences between the panels. Originally, I leant towards the QD OLED option being better, but the more I've tested these OLEDs, the more I find it hard to settle on a clear preference. Ultimately, I think what you like in a monitor will determine which panel is a better choice, and our 4K WOLED versus 4K QD OLED video goes into more detail on this. You should pick a 4K QD OLED monitor if you want a glossy screen coating. The only glossy 4K monitors on the market right now are QD OLED, as all the available WOLEDs use a matte finish. This is a personal preference thing, but I know some buyers won't consider an OLED unless it's glossy, in which case go QD OLED. You should also pick QD OLED if you want the widest color gamut and highest color brightness, and in some scenarios, though not always, QD OLED's overall brightness is superior. You should pick a 4K WOLED monitor if you want access to dual mode functionality, which allows the panel to run at 1080p 480Hz for increased motion clarity, in addition to 4K 240Hz. This is a great feature if you play competitive games because it allows the panel to run faster and with lower input lag. I think it works seamlessly and adds to the versatility of the panel. You should also pick 4K WOLED if you want a more consistent brightness experience between high and low APL content, where you don't have to worry about different HDR modes, and also if you would like deeper black levels in brighter rooms because of the screen coating and panel composition differences that favor that environment a little bit better. Here are the monitors I recommend and why you should consider each one. The Asus ROG Swift PG32UCDM is probably the overall best 4K OLED monitor on the market, with the most features, including an accurate sRGB mode with unlocked settings, fantastic HDR accuracy, ELMB black frame insertion, and Dolby Vision support. But it's also typically the most expensive at $1,300 US, and it can be very overpriced in other regions. So if you want the best, you'll have to pay for it. MSI offer a couple of cheaper options in the MPG 321 URX at $950 US and the MAG 321 UPX at $900. I've only tested the 321 URX model, but both should offer largely the same experience, with the 321 UPX removing some USB ports and RGB lighting effects to reduce the price. These are not as feature-rich as the Asus model, no black frame insertion or Dolby Vision support, but performance is still excellent and they are overall significantly better value. However, pricing relative to the Asus model isn't as competitive outside the USA, so be sure to do your research where you live. The Dell Alienware AW3225QF is the model you'd get if you want a curved screen, as it's the only current offering with a curve. I personally prefer flat, as I think it makes more sense on a 32-inch 16:9 panel, but if you love a curve, Dell has you covered. Performance is very similar to the Asus and MSI models, with a good feature set too, including Dolby Vision support. In many regions, this is one of the cheapest options and presents great value, often beating the MSI variants. Gigabyte also offer two 4K QD OLEDs, the Aorus FO32U2P at $1,250 and the Aorus FO32U2 at $1,000. I've tested the FO32U2P variant, but like with the MSI models, I believe the lower cost model should perform very similarly. The main difference is DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20 support. If you want the highest bandwidth DisplayPort, get the FO32U2P. If you're fine with DisplayPort 1.4, get the FO32U2. You should also consider the Gigabyte models if you want more HDR modes than its competitors, which gives you a bit more customization over how the display performs. Calibration is as good as the others, and I personally don't believe DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20 is worth paying a premium for, so I'd lean much more towards the FO32U2. Samsung also offer a 32-inch 4K QD OLED, the Odyssey OLED G80 SD, but I haven't tested it. Based on trusted reviews from people like TFT Central, the basics to performance are similar to the other models, but Samsung includes both a matte anti-glare coating and Smart TV functionality, both of which aren't available on the other QD OLED models. If those features sound appealing, it could be a good choice, with pricing similar to the MSI Gigabyte and Dell variants. Finally, I also recommend the Asus ROG Swift PG32 UCDP if you want the 4K W OLED panel instead. I've also tested the LG variant, the 32GS95UE, but I believe the Asus model is clearly better due to its superior performance, features, and tuning. This one is pretty simple. Buy the PG32 UCDP if you want the W OLED panel and its dual mode functionality, if you want better brightness performance in brighter scenes, and if you want a matte coating. It's a great display, but it is on the pricier side at $1,300 US. I think it's hard to go wrong with any of these models because the performance between them is so similar. I've included all as options because pricing does vary quite a bit between regions. With that said, as performance is so close, I'm drawn more towards the cheaper models from MSI, Gigabyte, and Dell compared to the more premium offerings from, say, Asus. As good as those Asus models are, they aren't worth a 30% price premium or more, but some of the models do have unique characteristics like a curve, DisplayPort 2.1, or matte finishes, so you could also choose based on the specific things you like and buy something in the knowledge that baseline performance is very good across these monitors. Also, if you'd rather get a 4K OLED that's not 32 inches in size, you shouldn't have to wait too much longer, with new 27-inch 4K panels expected to debut in the first quarter of 2025. Not everyone is going to want a 32-inch 4K 240Hz OLED gaming monitor, and there's a few reasons for that. You might be concerned about burn-in and don't want to risk it, even with some models offering 3-year warranties. You might want the better text clarity of an LCD, or you might desire high levels of brightness. The pricing of these OLED monitors might also be out of reach, especially if the lower cost variants aren't that cheap where you live. If you fall into one of these categories, a 4K HDR LCD gaming monitor might be better. With that said, I've generally been pretty disappointed testing newer 4K LCD monitors with zoned mini LED backlights. The main issues are usually things like poor tuning, such as with the BenQ EX321UX, or firmware issues, such as with the Acer Nitro XV275KP3. The 4K OLED options offer much better performance and tuning in most circumstances, at least based on what I've tested, so LCD manufacturers need to lift their game. Until I find a great new 4K HDR LCD that's worth recommending, I'm going to continue recommending the Samsung Odyssey Neo G7 in its 32-inch size. Prices are getting lower and lower for this model, and now you can consistently find it for around $700, or even lower at times. That makes it a great deal compared to a lot of the other 4K HDR LCDs, and it tends to perform pretty well too. The Neo G7 is a 32-inch 4K 165Hz gaming display using VA LCD technology and with a 1196 zone full array local dimming backlight. Thanks to this backlight and the use of high contrast VA tech, the Neo G7 offers a true HDR experience that I think gets the closest to OLED of any LCD monitor that I've tested. It doesn't quite match OLED for its richness, shadow detail and viewing angles, but there's no doubt in the HDR experience here is pretty good. The Neo G7 is one of the fastest LCD monitors I've tested in terms of response times, and while again motion clarity isn't as good as OLED displays, it still offers a strong gaming experience, especially at 4K. The HDR experience is very good as well. The combination of a high zone count backlight and great native contrast leads to minimal blooming in HDR content while retaining the punch you should get from these displays. Peak brightness exceeds 1200 nits, and overall this display is somewhat brighter than you'll get from an OLED, though it's not especially bright. Being a more traditional gaming display, the Neo G7 has a few other advantages up its sleeve. The use of VA LCD tech means there's no risk of burn-in, and it has a normal subpixel structure which plays nicely with desktop apps and text. And of course, the size is really nice for desktop use. 32 inches with this sort of resolution is fantastic. There are some drawbacks though. The 1000R curvature is very aggressive and adds nothing to the experience, so while the display is better suited to desktop use, I don't think it's all that versatile. Input latency with dimming enabled is unimpressive, it has weak viewing angles, and those do require you to view the display dead on to get the best HDR experience, but these flaws are more on the minor end of the scale and shouldn't take away much from what is otherwise a great HDR gaming monitor. If you're after a mid-range gaming monitor, the best options right now are 27-inch 4K mid-refresh SDR displays. Prices continue to fall for this category, and now you can regularly find great quality monitors at $400 US, or at the very least, well below $500. There is no reason to spend more than this on a 4K 144Hz monitor in 2024, given our testing has revealed that most of these displays deliver similar performance thanks to widespread use of fast IPS panels. The two main options that I think are worth considering at the moment are the Gigabyte M27U and the LG 27GR93U, so not much change from our last updates. Typically the M27U is a little cheaper, coming in at $400 US flat, whereas the LG model on its best days are $20 to $30 more expensive. At times the LG model is priced up at $500, it's just not worth buying at that price. Wait until the usual cycle of prices brings it back down near $400. The M27U is a 27-inch 4K 160Hz IPS LCD that offers an excellent balance across all areas to performance, from response time speed to color quality. Motion performance is similar to that of other modern IPS LCDs, and the panel is decently well optimized for variable refresh rate gamers. No glaring flaws here. We're looking at a wide gamut experience, great brightness, reasonable factory calibration, and of course the excellent resolution of a 4K panel that's well suited to productivity work as well as gaming. There are no areas to performance that especially stand out, but no deal breaker flaws either. The LG 27GR93U is a slightly better product, with the price increase over the M27U typically being fair. Many areas to performance are roughly the same, but if you go LG, you'll end up with some feature additions like hardware calibration support and slightly better response time tuning. Both models offer a single overdrive mode experience and current IPS levels of performance. There's a few other monitors worth considering. The Gigabyte M27UA is a new version of the M27U that's slightly better, but in many areas offers identical performance. If this monitor is available in your region at a similar price to the M27U, it's the better choice. There's also the older M28U, which is still available, usually at the same price as the M27U, $400. I like both of these displays, and I don't really have a clear preference. The M27U has a higher 160Hz refresh rate, the M28U a little better color performance. Either one is a great choice and are usually available at excellent prices. While I think the options I've just mentioned are the best choice for most people after a 4K gaming monitor, we're starting to see new dual mode LCDs hit the market as well, offering 4K 160Hz and 1080p 320Hz functionality. Like the premium 4KW OLEDs, the idea here is you can run competitive titles at a higher refresh rate and lower input latency, while still benefiting from the 4K resolution in other games that don't need as much speed. While I don't think the dual mode support on the LCDs is as good as on the W OLEDs, it's a format that could be worth considering if you play a broad range of games. The best of these options is the Asus ROG Strix XG27UCG, although priced at $500 US, it's only a good choice if you specifically want dual mode functionality. If you're going to use the 4K 160Hz mode 80% of the time or more, you're better off with one of the cheaper options I discussed moments ago, which offer largely the same color and motion performance, but again, come in a bit cheaper. If you're after a 4K SDR gaming monitor but think 27 inches is a bit too small, well luckily there are plenty of 32-inch models available. These days the 32-inch 4K market has improved a bit compared to previous years, where the quality of 32-inch panels was a noticeable downgrade relative to the 27-inch panels. That's really no longer the case, although upgrading in size still does come with a price premium. Right now, there are several options worth considering in this category, the leading candidate being the LG 32GR93U, a 32-inch 4K 144Hz IPS LCD. Prices on this monitor continue to fall and now sit around $520, though like with its 27-inch brother, there is a consistent price cycle, so occasionally it's up around $600, just wait for it to drop down before purchasing. The 32GR93U performs well across a range of different areas. It delivers good response times, and LG have tuned it well to offer a single overdrive mode experience. It's not the fastest product going around at 144Hz, but it's optimized to avoid inverse ghosting artifacts. Among 32-inch LCD monitors, this is one of the best displays I've seen in that area, which is especially important as older 32-inch models from a few years ago weren't very impressive in terms of motion quality. This is complemented by great factory color tuning, an excellent sRGB mode, hardware calibration support, strong DCI-P3 color space coverage, and good brightness. It offers fantastic versatility for those that want to game and use the nice large 32-inch 4K panel for productivity work. It's a really nice dual-use monitor. The main drawback here is that you aren't getting any real HDR hardware capabilities, but this isn't as much of a concern at its new $520 price point. You generally aren't going to see HDR at this price. Now typically I would recommend the 32GR93U over the Gigabyte M32U at current pricing, which has the M32U sitting at $500 US, a little cheaper than the LG model. In my opinion, the LG model is the superior and better tuned monitor, so it's worth spending an extra $20 to get it. With that said, pricing may vary in your region, so if the Gigabyte model is a decent amount cheaper, it may come back into contention. So that's it for this 4K gaming monitor recommendation video. Lots of great options on the market right now. Prices continue to become cheaper for 4K SDR panels, and we now have more OLED options at the high end for stunning HDR gaming. There's never been a better time to enter the 4K gaming ecosystem, and with more options set for release throughout 2024, it's only going to get better. As always, if you do want to learn more about the monitors I've been talking about in this video, I have individual reviews available right here on Monitors Unboxed for most of them. I also recommend checking the links in the description for updated pricing information, as this does change over time, so check down there if you're watching this video weeks or months after it went live. Anyway, that's it for this recommendation video. If you do appreciate all the work that goes into these videos, we do test lots and lots of monitors. Our recommendations are based on extensive testing. So if you want to support that, support our independent testing right here at Monitors Unboxed, then please do consider supporting the channel and becoming a Hardware Unboxed member through our Patreon page. Links are in the description below. You get access to some pretty cool benefits, ICC profiles for the monitors that we reviewed. So if you want to use that in Windows to potentially improve color accuracy, there's that option available to you. Discord chat, great place to get more information on monitors, chat with our very knowledgeable members about displays. So if you're on the fence about something, head in there. I'm also in there chatting away at times. So Discord chat available to Patreon as well. And yeah, monthly live streams, BTS, plenty of good stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.